She's a 9-year-old Cavalier King Charles. Come round, Annabelle, darling. Well, let's see you, sweetheart. There's a good girl. Okay. Now Annabelle, surprise, surprise, has got congestive cardiac failure. So we obviously don't need the heat padding. Here's our oxygen kit. Now because she's having such problems with the breathing, we're going to be using the 60% Venturi on her. So we attach the blank end to our anaesthetic machine or the oxygen outlet, and the green Venturi via the T-piece to the ICU cage. Now I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to turn this on as high as this will go, so that we're getting lots of oxygen. We're getting 60% oxygen. I've got this as high as ours go, which is just 8 litres a minute. So we're then supplying 16 litres a minute of oxygen enriched air. Now you can see she's got an indwelling cannula on her right leg. That's where we've been giving her various medications for her heart problem. You can see she's not a happy little girl. The danger here is she's getting the oxygen, but she will overheat. So delivering 16 litres of 60% enriched oxygen air mixture, we're flushing out the heat and the CO2 here. What you may find is in some dogs, you may find that may not be enough. So you may need to open up the red cap here, okay? And what you can then do is to attach a second oxygen supply using a second oxygen source, either another anaesthetic machine or your piped oxygen. In this case we're using a second oxygen source. This one goes up to 8 litres a minute as well. So we're supplying 8 litres of oxygen, 8 litres of oxygen, and each one of these Venturis is drawing in 8 litres of air. So we've got a total flow rate of 32 litres a minute of 60% enriched oxygen. And I don't know if you can hear it, but you can actually hear the oxygen air mixture flushing out from the cage there. So that should be enough to keep her cool. It's only in the large dogs. Maybe Annabelle doesn't need it, but we're going to monitor her temperature anyway. But that's just a tip if you need extra flow rates. The important thing is to keep the flow rates high. If you don't have a second source of oxygen, then it may be better everything gone.
What are you after?
It may be better to switch to the 40% oxygen. So you're still giving her enriched oxygen, but you're getting that up for every 1 litre of oxygen. In this case, we're running at 8 litres a minute of oxygen. We're getting 3 litres of air drawn in. So a total of 32 litres of 40% oxygen air mixture. Now that's going to be really flushing that cage out again. Okay, the gel packs are obviously helping. Here we are. Hello, Annabelle. You feeling a bit better, sweetheart? You're getting some oxygen for a change, eh? Okay. What about? Everybody says a common question we get is, what about humidification of the air? Don't forget, with these animals, we are not bypassing their nasal chambers or their respiratory tract. So they get natural warming and humidification of the air that way. Also don't forget, we're drawing in atmospheric air. Yes, there's oxygen in it, but the vast majority of what we're pumping in there is atmospheric air, which is already humidified. If you're concerned about that, then there is a humidifier that comes with this. You can also use the nebulizer chamber for humidification as well. We tend to find it's not necessary because often these dogs are breathing quite rapidly, and quite often there is quite high humidity in the cage. So, calculating the flow rates. Okay, a dog's tidal volume, i.e. the volume of one breath, is reckoned to be about 4 ml for every kilo of dog. So in this case, Annabelle weighs approximately 10 kilos. So one breath for Annabelle is going to be 40 ml, 40 cc's, okay? So what we now need is her minute tidal volume. In other words, the volume of breath that she will breathe in a minute. Now to get that, we multiply her tidal volume, in other words, the volume of one breath, which we've already worked out at 40 ml. We multiply that by the number of breaths per minute. Now I've had a quick check on this. I reckon she's taking about 50 breaths a minute. Okay? So 50 times 40, 40 being the volume of each breath, 50 breaths per minute. The volume that she's breathing per litre is 2 litres. So 2 litres is her minute tidal volume. So she's breathing 2 litres per minute in 50 breaths of 40 mils each. We recommend that the flow rate into the cage be at least twice minute tidal volume. So her minute tidal volume was 2 litres, so the minimum, that's the minimum flow rate that we need to have going into here, is 4 litres a minute. So in her case we're going to be using the green Venturi because we think we're treating her for congestive cardiac failure. We know that this will deliver 1 litre of air for every 1 litre of oxygen that we have coming in here. So we know that the minimum setting that we need this on is 2 litres a minute. If she were a larger animal, say she was 15 kilos, okay, we now have a different equation. So 15 kilos at 4 mils per kilo for each breath, that's 60 mils is her volume of one breath. If she's breathing at 50 breaths a minute, her total minute tidal volume is going to be 50 times 60. Okay, 60 mils per breath, 50 breaths per minute. So her total minute tidal volume is 3 litres. So the minimum flow rate, I stress that the minimum flow rate would be 6 litres a minute. So on the green Venturi, we would need to have our oxygen set on a minimum of 3 litres of oxygen per minute. With bigger dogs, obviously that's going to go higher. With dogs breathing more rapidly, that's going to go higher. Your flow rates, for instance, let's supposing we only wanted to use a 28% enriched oxygen on Annabelle here. Now, 40 mils of breath is the volume of one breath, 50 breaths per minute, so she's breathing a total of 2 litres a minute of tidal volume. So twice tidal volume, which is what we recommend, is 4 litres a minute. Now we know that the white Venturi, for every 1 litre of oxygen that comes through, it draws in 10 litres of oxygen. So we need much less than that. Now you can hear the difference already in the oxygen rates, that this is how much air this is drawing in, and you can really feel the cool air pumping out of this cage. So in fact what we would need is much less oxygen, but don't forget the minimum flow rate on these Venturis is 2 litres. So in fact we can set this at 2 litres of oxygen, and we're actually going to be delivering 22 litres of 28% enriched oxygen. So I hope you can understand the calculations. The charts are provided, and there is a chart with all the different flow rates for all the different weights and different respiration rates and the different Venturis. It's not difficult. If you're unsure, then go for the green Venturi, turn it up as high as you can until you get a chance to work it out. If the animal seems to be getting hotter, then you need to use the gel packs, and you need to use, perhaps think about going down to a lower Venturi to increase the flow rate. It's important to keep these animals cool. I'm just going to put her back on her 60% and again get the flow rate up. So again, I'll put it back up to her 8 litres a minute. We're drawing in 8 litres of air, so she's got a total flow rate of 16 litres per minute of 60% enriched oxygen. Way more than the recommended, but what we recommend are the minimum tidal volumes. That's purely to keep the CO2 out. You need the much higher flow rates to keep the heat coming out. That's a really important part of using the cages, not just our oxygen cages, but any oxygen cages, is the overheating. So we control the heat Firstly by the gel packs, which she seems quite happy. She's nice getting the cooling from them, but also by these higher flow rates we're only able to achieve by using the Venturis.